So we're in chapter 13, and we're going to do the spotlight in chapter 13 on hummingbirds. Here's a great picture of a hummingbird. It says, when explorers first saw hummingbirds, such as this green-violet ear hummingbird, they called them flying jewels. So we'll find out more about hummingbirds. So let's begin. When European explorers first arrived on the shores of South America, they saw for the first time a creature like no other. A bird so small, so colorful, with wings that flapped so quickly they looked like a blur and made a humming sound. Since then, the hummingbird has provided endless fascination for people all over the world. Because these birds are iridescent in color, their feathers sparkle in the sun, people began calling them flying jewels. And because they fly from flower to flower, hovering over them as they lap up nectar, others called them flower kissers. Caribbean peoples noted how quickly hummingbirds moved, called them as jujon. In the end, hummingbirds became the standard name for these striking creatures, and many call them hummers for short. As it turns out, hummingbirds are found only in the New World, in South, Central, and North America. In South and Central America, more than 350 species can be found. However, there are only 8 species coming to the United States. They are the rufous hummingbird, the callop hummingbird, Anna's hummingbird, black-chinned hummingbird, Costa's hummingbird, ruby-throated hummingbird, Allen's hummingbird, and broad-tailed hummingbird. So let's see some pictures of these here. Turn the page. As you can see here, you can see where all the different hummingbirds fly. Another dozen hummingbirds may visit southern part of the United States, but they're not as common. If you look in southern Texas or Arizona, keep an eye out for rare hummers that may visit your area. Although beauty may be a hummingbird's most obvious feature, these special birds are remarkable in other ways as well. First, they're very intelligent. Second, hummingbirds can outfly any other bird in creation. Though a few other birds can hover, stay in one place in midair for a few seconds, no bird can hover the way a hummingbird can. So here's these hummingbirds. Here's a rufous, and on the west coast, here's California there. Here's Anna's, you could probably find them around you in California. There's Costa's hummingbird, that too, is in California area too. Ellen's hummingbird on the west coast too. These are all like west coasts. And here's calipo hummingbird, and that too is there, and black-chinned hummingbird. Ruby-throated is in the east, so in Florida too, in the east, ruby-throated. So this is the kind I would find here. Broad-tailed hummingbird in the southern part of the United States. So let's keep going here. A hummingbird, can. And when they hover, it's not with the awkward motions of other hovering birds, but in perfect stillness with only their wings flapping. And boy, do those wings flap. Hummingbirds flap their wings faster than any other bird, 70 beats per second. That's about 4,800 beats per minute. No wonder their wings look like a blur. But hovering and zipping about quickly aren't the only things that make hummingbirds great flyers. They can also fly backwards and upside down and can turn to fly in another direction instantly. They're true acrobats in the air. But all that hovering and zipping from flower to flower makes a great deal of energy. While resting in a tree, the hummingbird's tiny little heart beats 400 times a minute. 400 times a minute. But while flying, its heart rate ramps up to 1,200 beats per minute. That's a lot, 1,200 beats per minute. That racing heart needs a lot of fuel to keep pumping blood and oxygen throughout the hummingbird's body. Now that you know how fast hummingbird's heart beats compared to your own, you can understand why a hummingbird must consume a great deal of fuel to keep its heart pumping. Where do you suppose the hummingbird gets the fuel it needs? Nectar, of course. Just as is vital for butterflies and bees, nectar is vital to the hummingbird's existence. In fact, they must eat 100 times their body weight each day in sugar to survive. Just try to imagine drinking 100 times your body weight in sugar each day to survive. That might be something like 400 water bottles full of orange juice every day. Hummingbirds must refuel every 10 minutes, otherwise they'll starve. As you can imagine, it's important to know where all the good sugar sources are each moment of a hummingbird's day. When a male hummer finds a reliable source of nectar, he will guard it jealously. A territorial male will take ownership of the hummingbird feeder or a yard filled with nectar-rich flowers, chasing off any intruder that isn't a female hummingbird. I've seen the hummingbird that lives in my yard chase butterflies away from the lantana flowers in my garden. If a male hummingbird intrudes in another's territory, the current occupant will flash its colors to warn off the offender. If that doesn't work, he'll try chasing him away. If that doesn't work, it's time to fight. Using their beaks and feet, the two rivals will stab and grab each other until one gives up and flies away. Typically, long, thin, tubular flowers colored red, pink, or purple will attract a hummingbird. This is why we put up red hummingbird feeders. When hummers see red, they'll fly down to inspect. Hummingbirds learn early that red is where the nectar is. If a hummer grows up in a region where all the juicy flowers are orange, it is soon mostly attracted to the color orange. Hummers are known to visit between 1,000 and 2,000 flowers per day. Wow. 1,000 and 2,000 flowers per day? They're always on the lookout for anything that might be a flower. Sadly, many hummers get caught in garages because of the red string that hangs down from some garage door openers. Be careful of your red string. Believe it or not, some flowers seem to be designed only for hummingbirds. Only very small birds whose beaks are of a certain shape. So here's a picture of a fiery-throated hummingbird of flashing its jewel tones to warn the intruders who want to feed on the nectar. They'll fight for it. Here's long tubular flowers that provide a lot of nectar for the rufous-tailed hummingbird. So certain shaped flowers can reach the nectar in these flowers. Let's put this here so you can see them. There we go. See it better there. One such flower is the angel's trumpet. The angel's trumpet. Its tube is so long that of the 350 species of hummingbirds, only one can reach the nectar within, the sword-billed hummingbird. This little guy's bill is longer than its entire body. Without the help of a sword-billed hummingbird, the angel's trumpet flower would not get pollinated, and without pollination, the flower would cease to exist. Another flower, the heliconia, also depends on a particular kind of hummingbird. Inside its red casing is curled yellow flower, and only a creature with a curled beak can reach the flower's nectar. Enter the sicklebell hummingbird. Without the sicklebell hummingbird, the heliconia would never get pollinated and again would cease to exist. But nectar isn't the only food a hummingbird needs. Protein is also a vital part of his diet. A great protein source is small insects, which hummers snatch from the air or from within a flower they're visiting. So what happens when it's time to rest? Everybody needs rest, especially hummingbirds. A hummingbird cannot maintain its rapid heartbeat and phenomenal wing speed and get the fuel it needs to survive in the night. So at night, hummers must enter into a state called torpor. Torpor, sort of like a temporary hibernation called torpor. Important word there, torpor. Didn't know that one. Their heart rate drops to about 40 beats per minute. It's pretty slow for a hummingbird, right? Consider they go up to 1,200. In this state of torpor, the bird cannot move. It's as if it's frozen, waiting for the return of daylight. This means a hummingbird is quite vulnerable at night. If a predator arrives, the hummer cannot fly away. When daylight returns, the little bird will begin to shiver for several minutes to warm up its body. Once it's warm enough, the hummingbird is able to resume collecting nectar, guarding its territory, and of course, mating. A male hummingbird's mating ritual involves an acrobatic dance in the air above a perching female. Once the two have mated, the female is ready to lay her eggs. She'll fly off to the tiny nest she has built using moss, lichen, thistle, leaves, feathers, and fur, all held together by spider webs. These nests can be as small as a walnut for the bee hummingbird, or possibly as wide as a page from this book for the giant hummingbird. Well, here we go. Let's see. Like all hummingbirds, this is a ruby-throated hummingbird is attracted to the color red. For here we have the sword-billed hummingbird is the only creature that can reach the pollen inside the long tube of the angel's trumpet flower. And here's Anna's humming. The bird must raise her young on her own, and many things went into making this hummingbird nest here. So, as you may remember, let's go over to the next page. The mother hummingbird will also raise her young without any help from the father. Thankfully, the chicks grow very fast. In just a month, they'll leave the nest and begin gathering their own food. For hummers that spend the spring and summer in the United States, migration is a fact of life. When cool temperatures arrive, it's time to go. There's a town in South Texas called Rockport, where in early fall, thousands of ruby-throated hummingbirds descend to prepare a 500 to 800 mile journey across the Gulf of Mexico. This journey may take 17 hours of continuous flying over the water. Therefore, the tiny birds must fuel up like never before. People who live in this area put up dozens of feeders for these birds to fatten up for their flight. They even hold a festival for visitors to come and enjoy the hummers. The longest migration journey is that of the rufous hummingbird, which spends the summer in Alaska. These little creatures will fly more than 3,000 miles to Central America. That's quite a deal. These are only a few of the many interesting facts about hummingbirds. I hope you enjoyed learning about the flying jewels of the New World. So, okay, right here, you can make your hummingbird for your menagerie, and here's how to make it using what you need. And here's a picture of it. Isn't that cute little hummingbird for your menagerie? Just follow the directions. And your next activity here, you can create a hummingbird habitat. It says, when you build your butterfly habitat, you probably included flowers that hummingbirds also enjoy. If so, that's wonderful. But if you didn't, it's not too late to add some flowers to that to provide nectar for hummingbirds if you live in North, South, or Central America. In this activity, you'll turn your outdoor garden or container garden into a habitat that will attract and nurture hummingbirds. So you can get started. First, you want to provide the nectar-rich flowers needed. And here's the list of these flowers. And you want to include plants that are native to your area. Hummingbirds will easily recognize them, and the plants will grow better in the local soil. Next, set up one or more hummingbird feeders and fill them with sugar water. Combine 4 parts hot water with 1 part white sugar, and then boil the mixture for 2 minutes and stir until the sugar is dissolved. Never use honey or artificial sweeteners or red dye. Hang your feeders in the shade to prevent the sugar solution from fermenting. Hang them in the shade, not in the sun. Clean your feeders once a week, twice a week if weather is hot, with a solution of 1 part white vinegar to 4 parts water. So here's some pictures of some flowers to put. It'd be nice to build a hummingbird habitat. So going on, we're finishing up on the hummingbird, but here's an activity too. You can make your outdoor space a wildlife habitat. And so, you can look this over. And what you can do, you can have your mom help you. It says, as cities and towns are developed, builders must remove trees and change nature into places where humans can live, play, and shop. The problem is the wildlife that once lived in that area lose their habitat. By creating a wildlife habitat in your outdoor space, you're providing a home to birds, bees, butterflies, and other wildlife. Whether you have only an apartment balcony or entire farm, you can create a wildlife habitat. To create a wildlife habitat, you must include elements listed here. You can also find this checklist in your zoology notebook. So if you want to take it further and have your habitat certified, you can purchase a sign for your outdoor space that indicates it's certified wildlife habitat. So here's water, food. You have to have water, you have to have food. You can see here. Cover, wooded area. Your habitat must have 2 of these places for animals to take shelter. You must have one item, basically says at least one item from 2 of these categories, sustainable or organic, so anyway, as you see, you can read these. I'm not going to read them to you, so this is if you want to make your outdoor space, which you should, because you kind of have one there anyway. Okay, we're going to go on to eggs, but I think I'll go into another video so you can stop here because we're going into a different subject. So, exceptional eggs.